Why does Palpatine look older in Episode 2 than in Episode 3? The answer to this reveals something about George Lucas's original plans for Palpatine that fans may not have expected. You see, while Palpatine in Attack of the Clones has receding hair with added liver spots and wrinkles, in Revenge of the Sith he actually looks much more healthy, even if his hair is white. It turns out Palpatine was at one point going to be slowly corrupted by the dark side, going from the Palpatine we see in Episode 1 to the hideous monster in Episode 6. But when creating Revenge of the Sith, the idea that Palpatine was disfigured by his own Force lightning, which he uses as proof of the Jedi attack on his life, was used instead. So even though most people haven't noticed this, why did Yoda run away from Palpatine? After Palpatine and Yoda's duel in the Senate chamber, we see Yoda go into exile, but why did he run away when they were evenly matched? The answer is actually revealed in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which I'm actually reading now, so no spoilers. I wonder who becomes Darth Vader. But during their fight in the book, Yoda has a revelation. He realized that while the Sith have evolved for the last 1,000 years, the Jedi had remained stagnant in their teachings, and because of this reason, he could not win the fight at this moment. So he decided to play the long game and go into exile to train the last hope of the Jedi. While Palpatine may have won the battle, he did not win the war. And subscribe if you are happy Star Wars ended with Palpatine's original death. Did you know this dark secret about the Jedi Temple? We all know the Jedi Temple was suspiciously close to the leader of the Sith, but did you know there is a reason for this? That's because the Jedi Temple is built over a Sith shrine. Long ago, the Sith built this shrine on a mountain of Coruscant where a dark side Force Vergence was, which the Jedi then built their temple over, thinking they could control it. They were wrong. A piece of the shrine remained intact, known as the Shrine in the Depths, which blocked the Jedi's ability to sense Palpatine's presence along with the Sith in general, and slowly corrupted the Jedi to become more biased and dogmatic over time. And after Order 66, Palpatine reconstructed the temple into the Imperial Palace, where he often resides almost as a final FU to the Jedi. He even used the Sith Shrine as a private meditation chamber. If you didn't know this, then subscribe. Did you know that Anakin's line has a secret meaning here?
Leave him or we'll never make it.
His fate will be the same as ours.
Well, think about it. All three of them died on the Death Star, but not the same one. While Obi-Wan was killed by Vader on the first Death Star, Anakin also killed Palpatine on the second Death Star while he himself died there as well. So technically what Anakin says here is true. And me telling you to subscribe is interesting as well, because you're not only hearing me say it, but you're also pressing the button at the same time because I'm using a Jedi mind trick. How did the Empire lose the Battle of Endor? I mean, Palpatine planned the whole thing as a massive trap for the rebellion to finish them once and for all, so what went wrong? I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to planning, nobody does it better than Papa Palps. It all has to do with the land battle itself. While yes, Palpatine's personal troops were stationed at the shield generator on the farthest moon of Endor, he was not expecting the Ewok reinforcements that used the land and hunter instincts to decimate the Imperial forces. This was specifically done by George Lucas as a mirror of the Vietnam War to show a local primitive military overcoming an oppressive enemy interloping on their territory. If you also love the historical allusions throughout Star Wars, then subscribe. Was Palpatine actually the hero of Star Wars? I get that Palpatine ordered Anakin to kill children, but I'm gonna need you to ignore that for 1 second. What happens when we look at Star Wars from Palpatine's view? For someone who teaches his apprentices about revenge against the Jedi and restoring order through power, you would expect him to genuinely believe in the Sith ideology. At first, it almost works. The Jedi are flawed, the Republic is rotting from the inside, and the galaxy clearly needs structure. But here's the twist most fans miss. Palpatine doesn't actually care about Sith revenge, balance, or even the future of the dark side itself, because everything he teaches is just a tool to secure more control. In the end, the only thing Palpatine ever believes in is himself, which means, from no perspective, political, Sith, or moral, is he ever the hero. Subscribe if you want more Star Wars content that deconstructs characters. Do you prefer Yoda versus Palpatine in live action or animation? Because we've actually seen them in both. While we never got this specific duel from the Senate Chambers animated, we do see Sidious and Yoda duel in Season 6 of the Clone Wars. However, there is one key difference that sets this duel apart from the one in Episode 3. While the live action duel is definitely more epic with the leader of the Jedi and the leader of the Sith throwing huge Senate pods at each other, I would actually call the animated one more unique, because this duel also shows Anakin beheading Dooku and then attempting to protect Yoda against Sidious, which leads to Yoda lifting Anakin up with the Force. So let me know in the comments, animated or live action? Order 66 was planned for 1,000 years. Even though the clone army wasn't created until 10 years before the Battle of Geonosis, most fans don't realize that this was initially set in place by Darth Bane a millennium before. Because during Darth Bane's time, the Sith weren't doing so good. They were in the middle of a war against the Jedi with hundreds of Sith who were working together to create a strong faction. After studying the ancient teachings of Darth Revan, Bane realized that the Sith couldn't beat the Jedi through pure military force and working together, but rather through deception and hiding in the shadows. So he destroyed the current order and created the Rule of Two with this Sith plan passed down for generations for them to finally get their revenge on the Jedi. Hence the name Revenge of the Sith. And subscribe if you have read the Darth Bane book, or you can just subscribe in general because, you know, I like money. Have you heard this Return of the Jedi theory? We all remember the scene when Vader is talking to Palpatine and confirms that he can feel Luke's presence on Endor when his master cannot, but have you ever considered the significance of this moment? Think about it. When the Chancellor was right across the street from the Jedi, they could not sense him as the Dark Lord of the Sith, so what if the Force itself was altering their abilities as it was time for the Jedi to be destroyed? But now the Force is swinging the other way in order for the Sith to be taken out. So Vader can sense Luke, while Palpatine cannot. And if you mess with this theory, then hit that subscribe button. Did Palpatine follow the Rule of Two? The Rule of Two was created by the Sith to create a system where there was always one who held the power and one to crave it. But Palpatine had a different view on this. Think about it. In Legends, during the events of the Phantom Menace, Plagueis, Palpatine, and Maul are all alive and active at the same time. And in canon, Palpatine lets Vader train multiple dark side users known as the Inquisitorius, because Palps didn't really care about the Sith rules for any reason other than to serve himself. He was also obsessed with immortality, which is the same reason he makes clones in canon and Legends. If you have read the Darth Bane books where the Rule of Two is created, then hit that subscribe button. Here's how Palpatine's design evolved leading up to Return of the Jedi, because while many fans don't know this, it has changed many times. While the special editions replaced the original Palpatine with Ian McDiarmid, the OG Empire Strikes Back is where things get interesting. Because for this movie, Ralph McQuarrie made multiple variations of the Emperor art for George Lucas to choose from. It's safe to say he didn't choose the first one.
Out. I got your voucher. Out!
Then we get this variation, which is what the Emperor ended up looking like in the final movie. The way they filmed this was with a chimpanzee for the eyes and the actress Marjorie Eaton for the mouth. When the Emperor took on a bigger role for Return of the Jedi, it is clear that George wanted a more streamlined look, which is what created this iconic character design. Let me know which is your favorite in the comments. Are Sith more powerful than Jedi? Well, yes and no. I mean, how come the Sith always defeat the Jedi even when multiple are fighting at one time? Well, Yoda explains this very well in The Empire Strikes Back.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. But is he more seductive?
So while the dark side could be more powerful in the moment, in the long run it was the longevity of the light side that allowed the Jedi to prevail for centuries. How old is every character in Return of the Jedi? Darth Vader is only 46 years old despite looking like an old man. But funny enough, Sebastian Shaw was 77 years old when Episode 6 was shot, which explains his appearance. On the other hand, Luke and Leia are both 23, Han is now 36 with his last year spent in Carbonite, Yoda is exactly 900, Palpatine is 88, Lando is surprisingly 47, and Boba Fett is 36. 6. The explanation for him looking so old in Book of Boba Fett is that these scars are effects from the Sarlacc pit, and Jabba is 604 years old while Admiral Akbar is around 56 years old. If you want to live as long as Jabba, then subscribe. These are 3 Palpatine details from episode 3 that you missed, and only hardcore Star Wars fans know the last one. Detail number 1 is the reason as to why Palps looks younger in this movie than he did in episode 2. Back then, George wanted Palpatine to naturally age into the shriveled up prune we see in episode 6 from the weight of the dark side on him, but then he changed his mind for episode 3, wanting him to be disfigured by the Force lightning for his cover-up story against the Jedi. However, even crazier than this is the fact that in one draft of the script there was going to be a big reveal that Palpatine created Anakin, making him his father. There are still hints of this in the final movie, by the way.
To influence the midi-chlorians to create life.
But our final Palpatine detail is so good it will melt your face off. If you look closely during his fight with Mace Windu and the other Jedi, you can see that Palpatine is actually holding Anakin's lightsaber hilt. But why is this? Well, there's no way the prop department was that lazy. No, this actually refers to a deleted concept where Anakin was actually with Palpatine the whole fight, and he uses the Force to grab Anakin's lightsaber. I'm honestly happy this was changed because I feel like it would have been so awkward to just have Anakin standing there doing nothing. But maybe it would have made his turn more believable, seeing how aggressive Mace is here.
The Senate will decide your fate.
And let me know if you already knew all 3 of these. If so, then you've probably been watching my channel for a while. What does the name Revenge of the Sith mean? While many Star Wars fans consider Episode 3 one of the best Star Wars movies, most of them only have a vague idea of what Revenge of the Sith means. There are actually 2 answers to this question. The first explanation for the name is tied to legends, because before the Republic, the Sith controlled the galaxy for centuries, with there being multiple Sith empires before the Sith were supposedly destroyed for good in 1000 BBY. Because of this, they were forced into hiding, with only 2 existing at any given time. So going along with this explanation, the Sith are getting their revenge on the Jedi Order by finally destroying the Republic and controlling the galaxy once more.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
But explanation 2 is probably one that you've never heard before, because what if Revenge of the Sith isn't talking about the Sith as a whole, but rather one specific Sith, Vader. For years, Anakin held resentment towards the Separatists, Count Dooku, the Jedi Order, and even his master Obi-Wan, who he thought was jealous of Anakin's growing potential. In this movie, he technically gets revenge on all of these. First, Anakin kills Count Dooku in cold blood, then he disarms Mace Windu and helps exterminate the Jedi Order, then he murders the Separatist Council, and while he doesn't defeat Obi-Wan, he does force him to go into exile, which in a sense is victory over him. And if you never knew this, then subscribe so I can complete my speedrun of 100,000 subscribers by September. How did Palpatine kill Darth Plagueis? According to legends, Palpatine had been manipulating Plagueis for years, making him believe that he was in charge of the Sith grand plan, when in fact Palpatine was now pulling the strings. But this all changed in 32 BBY. When Palpatine was elected as Chancellor, he had no more use for his master. Plagueis watched a Mon Calamari performance at the Galaxy's Opera House, the same one where Palpatine would tell Anakin about Plagueis years later before he retreated to his penthouse. Then Palpatine got Plagueis drunk while they were celebrating his victory, as this was the night before Palpatine became the Chancellor. After Plagueis fell asleep from the wine, Palpatine made his move. He blasted the Sith's respirator with Force lightning, causing his master to suffocate as Sidious mocked him and continued to shoot Force lightning at him. But there's more. After this, Palpatine went on to replace the rule of 2 mentality with the rule of 1, which would allow him to use multiple apprentices over time as tools and also to achieve immortality. And if you never knew this, then subscribe so I can complete my speed run of 100,000 subscribers by September. What does Darth mean in Star Wars?
For
only a master of evil, Darth.
While Obi-Wan said this to mock his former apprentice, there's actually more to the title than the movies show us. Darth was a title that was roughly translated to Dark Lord and was followed by a unique name like Tyrannus or Vader, but not all Sith could possess it. You see, when Darth Bane was introduced to the Brotherhood of Darkness under Lord Khan in the Star Wars Legends continuity, there were so many Sith there working together that none of them took the title of Dark Lord. This all changed when Bane exterminated the current Order of Sith, creating the Rule of Two, which comprised of one master and one apprentice that would constantly be cycled through, one to hold the power and the other to crave it. In these times, all preceding Sith were given the title Darth to show their status as the only Dark Lords of the galaxy. And if you would choose to become a Sith over becoming a Jedi, then hit that subscribe button. Why does Palpatine's face change in Revenge of the Sith? One question fans have wondered for years is whether or not Palpatine's Force lightning melted his face, or if this was just his true Sith form. Well, actually both. You see, according to the Revenge of the Sith novelization, while the lightning did melt his face into a form he had never seen before, Palpatine also said that, and so the mask now becomes the man. So, from a certain point of view, this could imply that Sheev was just a mask he wore over the face of Sidious, but what does George Lucas have to say? Well, George's plan here was always for the Force lightning to specifically be the cause of the deformities, which as far as I'm concerned, makes that the official answer. And if you agree or disagree with that, then subscribe to my channel anyway. Why didn't Count Dooku expose Palpatine? Even though Dooku had a perfect opportunity to expose the Chancellor as the secret Sith Lord to Anakin, he just sat there and said nothing. So did he not want to expose his master or what? Don't worry, the Revenge of the Sith novelization reveals his exact thoughts at this moment. Dooku immediately felt betrayed. He realized that after all these years, everything that he had done for Palpatine and every promise his master had made was a manipulation. Palpatine was now on Anakin's side and he had played Dooku as a pawn in his scheme for galactic control. But it was only a few moments later that Anakin beheaded him. So Dooku's head was not only racing with all of these thoughts, but also he was emotionally shocked by this betrayal, so he couldn't even bring himself to talk. And if Dooku is your favorite Star Wars character, then hit that subscribe button. Why did Palpatine personally call Commander Cody? Does this mean he called every clone trooper in the army of the Republic personally? Well, not quite. Think about it. If you were Palpatine, wouldn't you want to make sure every high target Jedi, like Obi-Wan and Yoda, were taken care of personally? Well, that's exactly what Papa Palps did here. While he sent out a standard message to most clones, Palpatine also most likely sent personal messages to Commander Cody for Obi-Wan, Commander Gree for Yoda, and even messages to save Jedi that had potential to be Inquisitors. But I said most likely because this isn't stated in canon, but is rather headcanon speculation. And if you agree with this theory, then subscribe to the Blue Bounty Hunter, aka DBBH. After Padme's death, why didn't Darth Vader try to kill Palpatine? Well, the answer to this is more deep than you may think. You see, after Padme died exposing Palpatine's lie to Anakin, did he not have every reason to kill the Emperor? Well, unfortunately, Anakin had lost everything. The Jedi were destroyed, Obi-Wan almost killed him, and the entire galaxy had now been enslaved under the Galactic Empire. Padme was all that Vader had left, but now she was gone too. As the Revenge of the Sith novelization puts it, he had lost everything, and now all he was left with was the shadow, Palpatine. Lord Vader was now forced to obey Darth Sidious as it was his only option. He was too weak to kill the Emperor, and even if he did, he had nothing left to live for in the galaxy. And if this helped you better understand why Darth Vader is such a tragic villain, then hit that subscribe button. Did Palpatine kill Padme in Revenge of the Sith? While this is no more than a theory, it will actually surprise most fans how well this holds up. Think about it. How did Sidious know that Padme was dead if this was happening the same night that Vader's surgery took place? Therefore, it seems possible that Sidious could have used his immense force power, which was greater than Darth Nihilus and Emperor Vitiate of the ancient Sith, to transfer Padme's remaining life force into Vader to keep him alive. But this still doesn't explain how Palpatine could have put the visions of Padme's death into Anakin's mind earlier in the film. Worry not though, because Sith alchemy might just be the answer to this very problem. And don't forget, Palpatine also told Anakin earlier in the film that he could save Padme from certain death. Perhaps this was true. If you believe in this theory, then hit that subscribe button. Hopefully you don't still want to know, what if Yoda went to arrest Palpatine instead of Mace Windu? Well, considering Yoda was more powerful than Mace Windu, surely he could defeat Palpatine here, right? Wrong. Mace Windu utilized the rare lightsaber form of Vapad, which actually channeled the dark side energy of their enemies. Yoda did not possess this, and would therefore most likely fail to beat Sidious here. However, let's say Yoda does beat Palpatine, and then what would happen when Anakin arrives? Well, since Yoda wouldn't be willing to kill Sidious, then and there, like Mace, Palpatine's cry for help saying,
"Oh, don't kill me, please,"
would clearly be a lie. Anakin would agree with Yoda to let Palpatine stand trial, and therefore the Sith plan would be foiled then and there. Well, unless Palpatine initiates Order 66 from his prison cell, that is. And if you want to see a Star Wars What If series created in Clone Wars animation from Disney, then use the subscribe button as a petition. The first should be, who is the Phantom Menace in Episode 1 of Star Wars? Well, as much as you might think it is Darth Maul, who is the main physical threat and villain, is looming and mysterious like a phantom, and is used in all the promotional artwork along with the name, it actually isn't. You see, as convoluted as this is, the name actually refers to Sheev Palpatine, who controls from the shadows the Trade Federation, and soon the Republic, and who is the mastermind behind the fall of the Jedi. And if you think you are as smart as Palpatine, then hit that subscribe button and join the guild. As genius as Order 66 was, Palpatine had a perfect moment in the arena on Geonosis before the Clone Wars even started, where he could have basically wiped out the entire Jedi Order. Think about it, many of the important council members like Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Shaak-Ti are all present here, not to mention Mace Windu as well, the one Jedi who could defeat Palpatine. And then the clones could have definitely taken out Yoda on the gunship, as well as the many other Jedi in the arena that we didn't mention. And if you were Palpatine and would have executed Order 66 right here and there, then hit that subscribe button. What happened to Emperor Palpatine in between episodes 6 and 9 in canon and legends to lead to his resurrection after what was once considered his ultimate death? Taking from cloning knowledge Palpatine had from his master Plagueis, the Emperor would be resurrected in different clone bodies, one of which became Supreme Leader Snoke of the First Order, who would train Kylo Ren, the son of Han Solo, and Leia Organa, and then also his final clone body, which was a decaying version of his former self that was sustained to full health after draining Force energy from Rey Skywalker and Kylo Ren, now Ben Solo, but would be defeated for good by Rey, who was actually his granddaughter. In Legends, Palpatine has a slightly different cloning run, where he transferred his spirit into a series of clone bodies stored on the hidden planet Biss. These clones, grown by the Dark Empire, allowed him to return in a younger, more powerful form, but they deteriorated rapidly due to the corrupting influence of the dark side. Palpatine's ultimate plan was to possess a powerful Force-sensitive body, eventually targeting Leia Organa's unborn son. His final resurrection attempt failed when his last clone body was destroyed, and with help from Luke Skywalker and Jedi allies, Palpatine's spirit was finally vanquished when a Jedi named Impetigeos Brand sacrificed himself to prevent its return. And this is the very end of my full Life of Palpatine video, which you can click below, and if you don't want to be haunted by the glitched out Snoke at the end of the video from where my editing software crashed, then subscribe and watch the full video. In this unused concept for Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine was to thank Jar Jar for making him the Emperor. We all remember in Attack of the Clones where Jar Jar, who was covering for Padme, suggested supreme powers over to the Chancellor in order to allow him to create a clone army for the Republic. But in this scene that almost came into being, Palpatine, after overthrowing the Jedi, would have thanked Jar Jar mockingly for his help. This probably would have made Jar Jar even more depressed when we saw him on Naboo at the end of the movie. And if you want justice for Jar Jar, then hit that subscribe button. Sly Moore was known as the Queen of the Empire. Her story starts with a young Umbaran girl who was kidnapped by Darth Maul, who imprisoned her in an ancient tomb where for months she was mentally and spiritually assaulted with Sith ghosts that was only rescued by Palpatine, who trusted her after surviving this trial. Later, she would blackmail Say Tari, which made her staff aide and then after that administrative aide as well. When the Empire came about, Sly was appointed to one of the first members of Palpatine's Imperial ruling court when gossip vids and other news sources would spread rumors of her and Palpatine being in a relationship, which is very well likely due to how close they actually were. She would die after experimenting with midi-chlorians, a Darth Plagueis force technique, and birthing a three-eyed son of Palpatine. And while in Legends, apparently Palpatine had multiple concubines,
Did Palpatine want Padme dead in Attack of the Clones? While it's often debated whether Palpatine wanted to assassinate Padme on Coruscant or if he intended her to be with Anakin in marriage, and in fact planted those dreams in Anakin's mind in Episode 3, it is true that he suggested Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker to her in 22 BBY to distract Padme, his biggest political opponent, and to distract Anakin, who he wished to corrupt.
Mas Amida, who was the 6'5" blue Chagarian from the planet of Champala, served as vice chair under Palpatine from Chancellor Valorum's vote of no confidence past the creation of the Empire. Alongside the Umbaran Sly Moore, Amida worked with Palpatine, who he knew to be the Sith Darth Sidious, to fulfill the evil Chancellor's wishes, such as incinerating a large basket of Jedi lightsabers after the Great Purge, which was held at a ceremony where the Jedi Order was announced to be over. Moving into the age of the Empire, Mas was removed from vice chair, but became Palpatine's voice in the Senate, as well as the Grand Vizier of the Imperial ruling court, and would later surrender the Empire to the New Republic after the Battle of Jakku, after a long career of influence and tyranny. Which is why Did you know in Revenge of the Sith, Chancellor Palpatine uses Anakin's lightsaber during his duel with Mace and the other Jedi? Well, okay, before you get mad, to explain, while yes, he does have his personal gold lightsaber in this insert shot here at the beginning, if we slow down the rest of the scene and look closely, we can see the signature black stripes of Anakin's lightsaber, which are clearly missing from his own. This is because there was an original version of the scene where Anakin was going to be there in the office the entire time, and Palpatine would steal his lightsaber, but they simply recolored it to be red, therefore giving off the illusion it was Palpatine's hilt instead after doing reshoots. How was the Imperial Senate, mentioned in A New Hope and also shown in Andor, dissolved by the Battle of Yavin? Well, you see, Palpatine maintained the Imperial Senate as an image of constitutional legitimacy, when in reality it was simply a front to let him pass all of his laws. The regional governors of the galaxy began to gain more power as the military ignored more and more Senate decrees, and eventually in 0 BBY, Palpatine used the arrest of Leia Organa after the Battle of Scarif to show the questionable loyalty of the Imperial Senators, which allowed him to diminish it, granting himself full power. Was Darth Sidious's Order 37 worse than Order 36? This contingency order entails capture of a single wanted individual through a mass arrest and threatened execution of a civilian population. After this, clone troopers would be trained on follow-up directives such as body disposal of said mass civilians and suppression of communications. In Revenge of the Sith, why was Anakin's name changed to Vader? I mean, what does Vader really mean? Well, after the release of The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, Lucas stated that the name Vader was based upon the German-Dutch language word Vater or Vader, meaning father.
Where is Padme? Is she all right?
It seems in your anger, you killed her.
Wait a minute, how did Palpatine know this right here if Padme was currently halfway across the galaxy on Polis Massa? Well, according to legends, it is unclear what Palpatine actually knew at this point, but it does seem that he believed that Vader himself had killed her in his anger, which was good for him as it was the nail in the coffin for breaking Anakin's spirit and also making his transformation into a Sith complete, born out of pain and suffering. Now, another commonly asked question is, how did Palpatine know that Anakin loved Padme in the first place? Well, the two best theories for this come down to that either Palpatine probed his mind with the Force and was actually the one that caused those dreams of her, or that he had agents undercover throughout the Senate, and in Legends, Captain Panaka actually was the one to tell him. And it's funny how all of these undercover things led to this moment right here. The sin of envy is characterized by Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. So the definition of the sin of envy is the act of feeling resentment or sadness towards another's good fortunes or achievements. The reason I have Palpatine here is because I think his obsession with overthrowing the spotless reign of the modern Jedi Council, who have sat at the top of control over the galaxy for centuries, is actually his greatest desire. He wishes to reverse this and have him and the other Sith order at the top. Eventually, the man who helped him take what his enemies possessed is the very one to strip him of his spot as Emperor of the Galaxy. Did you know Kit Fisto actually had a very brutal death scene? While it may appear that Palpatine simply slashed him with his lightsaber through the torso of the Nautolan Jedi, Kit Fisto's lightsaber actually moved backwards through his own neck, which is why we can see a slash mark on his neck here in the movie, and why in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin would later see his head on the desk of the Chancellor. You know how Anakin has no father and was conceived by the Force? Well, there was a rejected idea in the first drafts of the script for Revenge of the Sith that had Palpatine as Anakin's father, who influenced the midi-chlorians to create Anakin. This would have completely redefined the relationship between these two characters in this movie, as well as the overall saga, with this essentially being a mirror to Luke's revelation that Vader is his father. Who is Palpatine talking to in the opera scene from Revenge of the Sith? When watching episode 3 on the big screen last week, I was able to discover many different things without even meaning to. For one, when Obi-Wan begins riding Boga on Utapau, we can see a local Utai in the background hanging on to a rope attached to a different fractal. But also, before Anakin listens to the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, we see Palpatine surrounded by multiple important Republic figures like Masamita and, that's right, Sly Moore, right next to him, who in Legends he had a supposed relationship with, and who birthed his three-eyed son, Triclops. And if you never wanted to know what I just told you, but are glad you do now, then smash that subscribe button. So if Palpatine's lightsaber was flung out of the window in his fight with Mace Windu, how does he have one in his fight with Yoda just a few days later? Well, this can be explained by Clone Wars, which showed that Palpatine has not one, but two lightsabers, the second of which he stored in his sleeve here, whereas the first was stored in a vase in his office. When Queen Amidala tells newly elected Chancellor Palpatine that she will be returning to Naboo, while Palpatine puts on a facade of disappointment and shock, you can start to see a half smile form on his face, suggesting that he is happy that his plan is going as he has foreseen. Was Darth Sidious's Order 99 worse than Order 66? This contingency order was in regards to the battle droids rather than the clones, and actually was not considered one of the contingency orders of the Republic, as it was for the Separatists, but simply had a similar name, and this actually freed the droids from their current programming and Separatist obeying nature, allowing for the droid army to switch sides and help the Republic if the need arises. This order was developed as a test for the later Order 66 for the clones to use against the Jedi. If the Darth Plagueis scene was the hook for Anakin, then this is the retrieval of the fish from the water. What a great analogy, right? Okay, well, the acting here and slow build-up of Palpatine's seduction of Anakin is done wonderfully, and personally I think that Anakin should have been asking him about how to save Padme and considering listening to him rather than going straight to reporting them to the Jedi, because that would have made the turn later in the movie more convincing rather than this ultra loyal to the Jedi guy we see here.